Coming up this week on the Nintendo Directors Podcast, it's a new year for the Nintendo Directors, and we've got some great refinements coming to the show. We're here to tell you all about what that's all about, and as well, we've got some news about Epic Games and how much cash they are rolling in. Plus, we give you our picks for the top 5 tunes from a Zelda game. You won't want to miss that. So, all this and more, here we go.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Brad.
We're 2 middle school band directors.
And you're listening to
Nintendo Directors. Hello, greetings, and welcome to Season 2 of the Nintendo Directors Podcast. We've been doing this for a year now, but much more because we're on episode number 3027. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. Episode 3027 coming your way. The date is July 26th of the year 2018. Currently, it is Tuesday, July 24th when we're recording this. So if something news-wise breaks between now and then, that's why it's not in this episode. But this is exciting. We're doing some cool new things. By the way, my name is Mark Lego, and I'm here with my co-host Brad Beyer.
Greetings.
We are band directors. We wave sticks at kids for a living, and we also really like Nintendo. But we've got some cool things to talk about this week. There's some new additions to the show, some new refinements. We're going to be adding controversial lists, top 5 lists to each episode, because who
shouting,
does?
Because we want shouting.
Yes, lots of anger will be. Yeah. I love lists, and I was like, what?
True.
Yeah, we should be doing lists every week, every other week.
Everyone loves a good list.
Yes, and a reminder, this is an every other week podcast, so you should be getting this every other Thursday at roughly 9 a.m., sometimes a little before, sometimes a little after, and sometimes right on time. But yeah, we're gonna be updating the show a little bit this season. So lists are coming your way. We're gonna have more reviews, more consistent reviews, and try and make them higher quality as well. We're going to be having more guests, and we're going to be doing lots of fun things. So,
hey, speaking of reviews, I totally forgot to include in the intro that we have one for you this week, and
yeah,
it's pretty great. Mark spends a good amount of time working on his Octopath Traveler review, so
you do not want to miss
later
it
in the show. But he also has that's right. He also has a full-on review for that. So we're excited to present. Yeah, we're just going to kind of, as we came to sort of the end of the year here, or the beginning of the new year, I guess, we just decided we wanted to kind of up our game a little bit, and we wanted to kind of curate. We've decided we want to curate the news a little bit more, not necessarily give you every story that's published, but just kind of focus on a few key ones, and then kind of focus on more of our content, the other content going forward. So,
yeah. Sweet. Well, without any further ado, why don't we get into the news? All right, the news. The news this week is brought to you by an accordion-playing bird that follows you around spouting wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
I know that too. Hey, so you heard of this game, Fortnite, Mark?
Yes.
You've seen it, maybe? Okay.
Yes.
Good.
All the kids are playing it.
All the kids.
All the cool kids.
As it turns out, they've made a couple dollars. They got an allowance for the week, for the month, and they.
No thanks to me.
Right, not to me either. So, gosh, this story just blows my mind. Fortnite has now officially, this is via IGN, the IGN reports that Fortnite has reportedly made over $1 billion, that's B, $billion of in-game purchases.
That's more than $1 million.
That's a few more.
Yes.
And
that's a lot of money.
That is an absurd amount of money. And for a free-to-play the game, that's unbelievable.
That blows my mind because I play Fortnite quite a bit. I will never pay for anything in that. It's free. Right. I can play the full game. I know that there are some really cool things with it. Maybe someday I'll break down and it'll be like hey, thanks for making this great game. I'll give you I'll buy a season battle pass or whatever they call it. But I don't see myself doing that. It's you can play the full game and it's free.
Right.
but $1
Right.
billion.
I mean, we pay for our vanity, right? I mean,
That's
we
true.
like to we like to look good in what we do. Go
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to finish a little bit of the story here. Just kind of reading from these. Basically, the report claimed that this is actually let's see. It actually came via IGN, picked it up via GameIndustry.biz, and that report shows that Fortnite has made over $1 billion off of in-game purchases alone. And the report also claimed that Fortnite is only growing in overall popularity, with an upward trend since October 2017 that saw a huge spike in February that only started slowing in May, while still continuing upwards. And then that slowed May growth was still good enough. So even the quote slow part of it was still good enough for $318 million in revenue.
That's a lot of money. And then
it came out on the Switch in June now?
June.
It was June.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Which, by the way, I was listening back to our E3 predictions episode. A couple of our predictions were spot on. A couple were way off. But
even though they were all right,
they were all exactly 100% correct, though. But yeah, no. But my first prediction was Fortnite announced at E3 and available that day, and that happened. I got to pat myself on the back. But that was my only one that was like right. The rest of them were not close. But yeah, that is mind blowing. I mean, they must have made even more in June, especially with the season 5 releasing just recently. I guess that happened in July. Is the season 5? They must just be rolling in money.
What do you do with that? Like, what is their next step after something like, the only thing it's comparable to is something like, well, I guess there's like those, one-off mobile games like Clash of Clans or, Candy Crush that have made zillions of dollars. But, for a big kind of AAA type developer like Epic, what do you do with that? It's maybe only comparable to like Rockstar Games, who, releases one game every 6 years, makes $1 trillion, and like, I mean, what was it? A couple months ago, that Grand Theft Auto 5 was named the #1 entertainment property of anything ever.
Yeah,
ever. And it's still crazy. Topping the charts in sales. I know.
Yeah, there a couple of these things just they get their claws in on like the finger of they've got their finger on the pulse of what people want, and like they gamble on it, and they gamble correctly, and they pour their assets into it, and they make something awesome. And what do you do next? Like, I guess you just keep making 2. I mean, you just keep updating it. You don't need to make a Fortnite 2. Yeah. It's endlessly
like
refreshed,
Minecraft, I guess.
So. But yeah, that huge spike in growth in February, I'm pretty sure that coincided with Ninja, the Twitch streamer who played with Drake.
Really?
Yeah, when that happened, it just exploded, and that's insane. $1 billion, $1 billion. It's a lot of money,
right?
Yeah,
crazy. All right, so the other big story that we have, we want to focus on today is that Nintendo has announced their winners for their Labo Creators Contest. Now, you may remember this was a contest that was set up, I guess, a couple months ago. That was basically like Nintendo had released their Toy-Con Garage, and they said, "Hey, go wild! Let's see all the crazy creations that you can make." And then that. People did it. They just went nuts. And some of these things we wanted to share. If you haven't looked at the page on Nintendo's website for the winners and watched their videos, absolutely go do that, because some of this stuff is just incredible. Some of the highlights included a solar-powered accordion.
This is mind-blowing. You go to labo.nintendo.com and look at all these, but that accordion...
You have to see it. It's made out of cardboard. Literally, it's made out of cardboard, just like it should be. But then, like the girl on the Switch, she made 3 buttons on the Switch, the left-hand side, I guess, the chord side, that allows her to change octaves. 3 different octaves. Right. And then as the sun looks down into the holes on the right-hand side that she covers with her fingers, what is it? When she's covering it, they all play, right? Or when she's covering it, it plays.
I think the ones that are covered, are being played.
Yeah.
Right.
So then
we should watch it again, but it is worth watching multiple times. What she did, the level of programming she got into that, It's astounding. It's so cool. There are so many. I'll do a quick rundown of the contest winners. There was the best decorated toy cons. The piano was The Legend of Music, this really cool looking Zelda themed one with the Master Sword on top of it, and it looks great. There's no grown-ups allowed. This treehouse version of the Toy-Con house, that just looks fun. There's Jurassic Park with spelled PARC for the remote controlled car. They put a dinosaur on top of the remote controlled car. That's pretty cool looking. The best Toy-Con mod using Toy-Con Garage. Somebody made an analog clock with alarm, which is kind of cool looking. They did that with the piano keyboard. There's Labo Fix-It, which that one I didn't look too closely at, but they did a really cool overlay on the screen. This kid made one called Creature Says, Listen to the Creature, and did this, again, a really cool overlay of the Toy-Con house, giving like little speech bubbles to the creature that lives in the house. Looks cool. But then what we highlighted earlier was the best original invention using Toy-Con Garage, which was the solar-powered cardboard accordion. And then what is equally awesome to me is Labo Tea Time. And this guy made this really cool set of his own cardboard teapots. And you'll need, I think, probably 4 Joy-Con to do this, because he had 4 teapots. And
one for each,
Yeah, so you lift the lid and then it fills the teapot, but he uses the switch screen to have like customers come in and demand drinks, and you get points if you give them drinks. It's like that old arcade game Tapper, of which we were talking about before the show. The NES edited version. What was it called, Brad?
Root Beer Tapper.
Yes, Root Beer Tapper for the kids, where you had to send sudsy root beers slinging down the bar to the patrons to make sure they were happy. But really inventive. The last one was Don't Break the Line, which you were talking about. Go ahead and talk about that one.
That was also pretty nuts. It was basically this kind of, it was sort of boxy, but it was, it's hard to describe. So the kid made it so that it was a coin op game. It was literally a coin op game. So you stick a coin in one corner of the box, and it activates this game where there are 3 little knobs on the side of the screen. So the screen's in the middle of the box, and then to the right of that are 3 notches at different heights. And you had this movable piece that you had to move up and down to coincide with each of those marks. And as you did that, lines started scrolling across the Switch screen, and you had to line up where you were placing the movable box with where the line was coming across the screen. And so you were connecting the line across the entire screen. And so it becomes this management sim of, I got to move here so I can go to this, and then sorry, I got distracted.
No, that's fine. No, and this is essentially what we were hoping for with Nintendo Labo and getting into the Toy-Con Garage. How inventive people are getting with it is it's fantastic. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Labo later, because I got Labo and I've been playing it with my daughter, but we'll talk about that and what we've been playing. But it's really fascinating what they've been able to do with what people are doing with Toy-Con Garage and the programming capabilities of this, and just the decorative abilities of what you can do with these different Toy-Cons to make them look cool. We've been exploring that at my house, but again, we'll talk about that more when I'm doing my what we've been playing segment. But so anyways, so that's our second main story, and we're going to do some quick hitters now just to kind of get through some other news segments. But let's see, moving down the line here, we got through Nintendo Labo. Number 3 would be amazing creativity. Wow. Homemade game. Don't break the line. Oh, that's I'm reading right off the list. Yeah. Let's move on. Right. In fact, I'm going to edit that part out. So moving on in the news, Brad, why don't you take the next segment?
Yeah. So basically, we've been talking about Octopath Traveler a lot, and the game has been very successful, it seems, in terms of initial response from critics and from people buying it. Sounds like a lot of people have purchased, and specifically the physical version sold out almost immediately. the collector's edition, and
the Wayfarer's edition. Yeah,
correct, the Wayfarer's edition. And so Nintendo actually, or not Nintendo, Square Enix actually issued an apology to fans in Japan because they're saying, we didn't realize you were so excited about this physical edition. Sorry, we'll make more, but we're not. We don't have it yet.
My hope is that they will actually, I think there are aspects of the Wayfarer's edition that were sweet, but I didn't want a physical version of the game. I hope that they would see how popular that was, and then maybe they'll say, hey, if you want to buy the cloth map, you can buy that. It's $15 plus shipping. Or if you want the pop-up book, kind of pop-up, it was designed to look like a scene from the game, a very cool scene from the game. If you want that, you could buy that. Because I would totally buy those two things. I've actually been looking online for ways to buy.
I was going to say, you might be able to find them on eBay or something.
They're way too much money. It's like $40 for the map. It's like, well, it's like $40 more than the price of the game just to get all of it. Why would I pay that for the map? So, anyways, but yeah, that's. I'll get into that later, more about that later. But I'm really excited that happened, but also kind of bummed for the people that wanted to get the Wayfarer's edition and the physical copies. So, but that's good news though.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Go ahead. I was going to talk about the Mattel making Mario Kart thing. Yeah, go for it. You do that one.
Well, one other quick story. Yeah, this is there's two actually in this, but they're Mario Kart related, and that is that at Comic-Con just this last week, Mattel revealed that they're going to make little Mario Kart themed Hot Wheels cars and tracks to go along with it. Prepare your wallet. Apparently they're about $5 a piece, and it'll include Mario, Bowser, Peach, Luigi, Yoshi, Toad, Wario, and Rosalina. And man, this looks cool. I should not want this, but I kind of want this.
I want it. I want all the Mario toys. So
yeah,
that's just cool.
But that's just neat. Yeah, if they can make it look cool and make the figures look great, awesome. And then also with Mario Kart 8, there's been a sort of surprise update. It just kind of happened a couple of days ago. I don't know if you've had a chance to try this, Mark, but Breath of the Wild Link and his Master Cycle Zero is now available.
I saw the update. I haven't tried it yet, but that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Because that motorcycle in Breath of the Wild feels like it should be in Mario Kart. It doesn't really feel like it should be in Breath of the Wild. But it is fun in Breath of the Wild. But yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
All right. So that's the news.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get into the very hotly disputed top 5 tunes from a Zelda game besides the main theme, kind of. Here we go with our top 5 list. All right, our top 5 tunes from a Zelda game. I'm going to start with, I've got an honorable mention because I needed to get some in there that I couldn't fit in. So I'm going to give my honorable mention that didn't make my top 5. Why don't you do your honorable mention as well? And then we'll get into the top 5 actual. So my honorable mention includes Korok Village from Breath of the Wild. It includes Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time, Death Mountain from the original Legend of Zelda, Hyrule Field from Twilight Princess, and Rito Village from Breath of the Wild. That's my honorable mention. Anybody in the comments later can fight me about that. Not any of them not making it into a top 5. But go ahead, Brad. Your honorable mention.
I have 2. There's one that's called Kass's Theme, and
good.
It's this one.
Yes. Yeah.
The accordion guy. What is he? A bird or a?
He's a bird. An owl
and
thing.
I was gonna say, it's wonderful, and then you're just sitting there, and you're sitting there and thinking about the puzzle that he's given you, or the usually you're in an area and there's some kind of shrine puzzle to figure out, and he gives you a clue. And so you're trying to figure out that. So it's a really, really neat song. And then the other one is didn't actually make it into the game itself, but if you remember the very first time we ever saw Twilight Princess, it was just a sort of a cinematic trailer, and there's this beautiful soundtrack going on in the background where he's it's showing all these big castle scenes in these dreary environments, and it's all cloudy and everything, and then eventually it shows him turning into Wolf-Link. And it's just a very orchestral, great horn parts, fantastic, epic kind of style music, and it goes to a big finale finish at the end. So it's like the teaser music, but it's almost as good. In fact, it's so good that it was included in the official Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess soundtrack.
Right.
So it's definitely worth a listen. That's my honorable mentions.
All right, so let's get into our top 5. So my fifth one, my number 5, comes from an older game in the series. It comes from Link's Awakening, and this is Tal Tal Heights. And we're going to give a quick listen to this one. And again, you can fight me in the comments later, people. But here we go. This is my number 5, Tal Tal Heights. Sounds a little tinny there, but it's an older...
Old chip tune.
Yeah, yep. And it's a nice reimagining of the original Zelda theme. So that's cool. I like it. So it kind of breaks the rule that we put of not using the original Legend of Zelda theme, but it's not really the original.
It's different enough. It's different enough. It explores some different tonalities. I think
it does. And
really kind of nice.
I had forgotten about that tune until recently. I was listening to Bit Brigade, a really cool band. If you've heard any of our other episodes, you've heard me talk about them, but they're a really good video game cover band. And they do Tal Tal Heights, and it sounds like this. And when I heard their rendition, I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. So here's Bit Brigade doing Tal Tal Heights. Super cool rockin' tune, driving rock.
Nice.
And they do the whole game live of the original Zelda, and they work this into the game as well. But when I heard this, I was like, oh, I forgot how good that tune is. It's fantastic. So anyways, that's my number 5. What's your number 5, Brad?
Excellent. My number 5 is one that I would just listen to for a long, long time. When I would play this game, I would go into this building and just listen to it over and over again. This is the windmill theme from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, otherwise known as the Song of Storms.
Yes.
This just has a really simple melody, but it's really catchy and really, but it's kind of got that minor tonality to it. It has that kind of the bouncy, fun nature to it, but I don't know. There's something that's really attractive about it as well. I've done a tuba only rendition of this on the iPhone app called Acapella. So right.
I've never shown it to anybody. I probably never will, but it was fun to do. I love that piece. It was in my honorable mention. I just didn't love it as much as you. So
right. That was good.
All right. So that's our number 5s. My number 4. This comes from the Super Nintendo. This is from A Link to the Past, which was my favorite Zelda game until Breath of the Wild came out. And this is called Dark Golden Land. If you played this game,
Dark World thing, right?
Yeah, it's the Dark World. Yeah. Yep. Like, it's a really cool original tune from this game, but it has elements of the original theme. I don't know. I love it. Yeah, great tune, and really good use of the soundboard on the Super Nintendo. This is a Koji Kondo tune. Really good. All right, so that's my number 4. How about yours?
Excellent. My number 4 is from Breath of the Wild, and it's one of the things I love about the Breath of the Wild soundtrack is that it's all live, and so the resonance and the tone quality of everything that is excellent. So this is the Kakariko Village theme from the daytime, and there's really great percussion effects in here. that the composer uses to great effect. So we have, and then this sort of lyrical melody in a flute type instrument, and if we give a second to build it up here. I just love the feel of this because it's, we've been trained over the years to hear the Kakariko Village theme as we've known it through all of the older games, and this is just so totally different from that, but it perfectly sets the very Japanese inspired,
it's the right mood.
It's the totally right mood, and especially since it's, well, for most people anyway, it's one of the first towns you come to in the game, so it's just kind of got this very peaceful quality, and it's not quite as bright and chipper as like a Kokori Forest or some of those other places that you've been to early in Zelda games, but it still has it's just different, and
it's the right calming music you need for when you finally arrive at your first real town in the game. You're like, okay, a little bit of a respite. This is nice. It's good. And also, you say how do you say it?
Kakariko.
Oh, I always say Kakariko. I wonder. Ooh,
it's okay. You can be wrong too.
No. That's it's okay. To me that hearing you say that is like when I hear people say jokingly Coca-Cola instead of Coca-Cola. But I don't know that. All right, that's fine. I'd be interested to hear if any of our listeners disagree with one of us or the other. So
that's true. All right. Well, you never hear it pronounced in the game, right? So you never know exactly what.
Yeah. Kakariko.
Kakariko. Yep. Yeah. Okay, now you got me all. Kakariko just kind of sounds weird to me.
Okay.
But I'm probably Kakariko Village sounds weird to you, so.
It does. No, that's interesting. All right. Moving on to number 3. My number 3 comes from Twilight Princess, and this is a game that I still have yet to beat. I'm on the last dungeon. One of these days I'm going to go back and finally beat it. But I don't know why I haven't. It is, but it's really good. This is Midna's Lament, which
this is great.
When you hear this the first time in the game, you're like, it's just perfect. It's perfect.
It's beautiful.
The soundtrack for this whole game was great.
It was excellent. Yeah, if it could have been fully orchestrated, that would have been.
Oh, man.
Been really special.
Yeah. I wish they would have done that on the HD remake. That probably would have cost too much money, but
yeah, they really didn't update that game a ton beyond.
Not at all. It felt like the same thing,
but it was still great. But what I really love about this piece is it's just so mournful, and if I'm remembering correctly, the first time you hear it is when you first meet Midna there in the castle when you've first been turned into a wolf and you haven't been able to change back yet.
Right.
And it kind of and not to mention the fact that you're about to meet Zelda in her like. Not enslaved, but like well, I guess Xanth's taken over, and so and so the kingdom is very sad, and so this is it's a very appropriate.
It's a very mournful nocturne, like with that arpeggiated line and then the melody on top. I love it. It's great. Yep. All right, so that's my number 3. How about yours?
My number 3 is a repeat. I'm just a fan of Telltale Heights as well. So
yeah. I thought for sure I was going out there. I thought I was being obscure, and you place it higher. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was saying before, I really love how, especially later in the tune. Let's see if I can find exactly where everything. So it's like Mark was saying earlier, it's a great riff on the melody, the original main theme melody, but it also does these cool tonal shifts. Where it
has a chord change in it, like it has a key change.
And even right here, this Alberti bass that's going on just really keeps going through. There's your music theory word for the day. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it starts doing it again, and I'm trying to see if I can find the spot that really goes into that minor. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but either way, excellent use of just musical variety in the way that it's written and the orchestration, the way they change, the way he varies it throughout the course of the melody.
Yeah.
Especially using just chiptune resources. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely. That's sweet.
My number 3.
Cool. All right, on to number 2. For me, my number 2 comes from a gem of a game. This is from Wind Waker, and this is Dragon Roost Island. And this is a great piece. This is one where when I didn't play Wind Waker until it came out on the Wii U with the HD remake, And
that's the perfect way to play it.
It's so good. I'm only halfway through, and that's where I stopped. I don't know if I'll go back and beat it. I should, because it was great.
Yeah, you should.
It was really good.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple Zelda games in limbo that I'll go back to and finish one of these days. But I got to this island, and I just stood there for a good 10 minutes. I was like, I'm gonna go make lunch and just listen to this. It's so good. I love this song. And I shout out to Smooth McGroove, the guy that does all the vocal covers of video games, and he did a great rendition of this that my daughters love singing along to. So
awesome.
Anyways, so that's some Dragon Roost, which also I want to mention. Rito Village from Breath of the Wild made my honorable mention. Rito Village is a reimagining of that theme, and it's beautiful. Yeah. So, okay, that's my number 2. Awesome. How about yours?
Okay, so speaking of tunes that you could listen to for a very long time, this is from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, one of my favorite Zeldas, and this is the Deku Palace theme. You talk about a tune that's just endlessly singable. Yeah.
Yep.
Just be careful not to sing along with it there, because you're delayed from me a little bit. So
yeah, that's true.
So it's a really just cheerful, happy tune, and I don't know. There's just something endlessly hummable, singable, and memorable about it. It's not terribly complex. There's some basic chord structures, and the melody, does a lot of back and forth repetition and whatnot. But it's still just really, again, it's I could do homework for with this in the background. It's not something you have to focus on, but it's just really entertaining, enjoyable.
Cool.
So
I like it. I like that one a
lot. That's the Deku Palace.
All right, this is the point in our list where we're going to create some controversy for people, because we're going to get to that point where we've left off that favorite tune for certain people. But we're going to get down to our number ones here. So my number 1 comes from Breath of the Wild, which I've already eliminated many people. My number 1 comes from the final dungeon, Hyrule Castle, which is a great hearkening back to some older melodies from Zelda, but in this really great sort of spooky fashion, and how the music changes when you're inside the castle to when you're outside the castle. It's wonderful.
So this is actually new for me, because I haven't been to the castle yet.
Oh yeah. Oh man, spoiler. You'll get there and you're gonna go, this is great. Yeah. But I had to include it. I'm sorry, Brad.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't care. It's just music.
It's wonderful, and you're gonna love the change when you go inside and going outside, and it's perfect. And I love being there. Yeah, I this was another moment where I just stood for a long time. I made it to a safe point in the castle. I'm like, I'm gonna stand here and listen for a while. So,
awesome.
And that descending piano line there. Oh, it's great. Okay. Anyways, that's my number 1, the Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, and my number 1 is, I think I'm guessing we could say this is a fan favorite. This is Gerudo Valley.
Ooh, yeah. Yep. Super Guitar Bros do a fantastic rendition of this.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, this is just the most groovalicious Zelda tune there is.
That's
I really
a good way of putting it. I like that word.
And so, obviously there's not a whole lot you really have to say about this, but it's you're in the desert there, and it just, I don't even know why it works, but it does for what you're doing, and you're trying to infiltrate the Gerudo Palace, and then you're off in the desert and whatever. There's actually one more recording I want to play. This is it's by no means a professional recording, but it's a really interesting one. There's a YouTube channel called Mart0ZZ, MART, I believe that's a 0, not an O, ZZ, and these are basically, they look like what are probably college roommates or something. The video is literally just like a marimba pushed up against a wall.
Oh, I've seen this. Yeah.
And they just play lots of video game tunes, especially Zelda, and they do a fantastic job. There's three of them, and they play on this marimba like this, and they're very skilled. I actually did a transcription of this this particular tune, and I had some of my percussion ensemble students play it one year for a concert. It was super fun.
I made the mistake of showing one of their videos in class. I didn't realize they have some colorful language in one of their descriptions of their videos, and it was on the screen for the kids. And one of the kids laughed, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make that video full screen. Don't pay attention to any of the words there." Whoops! Please don't tell your parents. I don't want to get fired. But
right.
But they're very good. I love that. So
yeah, they do a great job. So there's that. So that's my number one, the Gerudo Valley theme. Very, very cool. And there's so many good versions of that. Like you said, the Super Guitar Bros do a great job. The Zelda 25th Anniversary CD that came out with Skyward Sword does an epic version of that. It's just intense. And I think it's a very popular one for good reason. So.
Yeah. Yep. So if you have any disagreements with any of ours, feel free to chime in on the comments. Send us emails, send us your hate mail, whatever you want. But we'd love to hear if you have disagreements. Yes, we invite any mail. But send us your thoughts.
Podcast@gmail.com, by the way.
Yeah, sweet. So that's our top 5 tunes from a Zelda game. Next up is what we've been playing. All right, what we've been playing. For me, I've been playing a bazonkers amount of Octopath Traveler. I'm in love with that game, and I'm not going to talk too much about it right now because I did an in-depth review on it that we're going to have at the end of this episode, which I hope you listen to because I put a lot of time into writing that up and mixing and editing it. So, but it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. I love that game. But moving on, I've also been playing Fortnite with the Season 5 update. That is really good, and I love the fact that you have vehicles in it now, which we were going to talk about it earlier in the news. They're going to start adding vehicle skins now that you can purchase. So they're going to be printing more money at Epic Games. But but yeah, the Fortnite Season 5 is really, really interesting additions where you have like the whole thing was the Rift, and like now there are mini rifts that you can find around the map, and you'll like walk into it and you'll just pop up like 300 feet in the air and you can parachute somewhere else. So it's interesting, a lot of interesting additions, and like the golf course is cool. The golf carts are great. Lots of fun. The Viking ship is cool to visit. So yeah, I've been really digging some Fortnite. I've also been playing a lot more Splatoon 2. It's the only shooter game I can play with my kids around. So they love. They're like, "Are you going to do paint splats?" And I'm like, "Sure, let's do some paint splats."
Let's do some paint splats.
I've been really enjoying Splatoon 2. That's a fantastic take on the shooter genre, and I love that game. The last thing I've been playing has been Labo. I mentioned that earlier. I've got Nintendo Labo. I've been making some of those Toy-Con creations. So far, I've made the piano, which takes a lot of time when you're working with a 6-year-old. But it's worth it. I'm blown away by the depth of what you can do with that. So,
awesome.
So we made that. We made the remote control car. We ordered extra reflective UV stickers, which is what they uses to the infrared sensor. And so we've made like long tracks for the remote control car to travel down, which is just endlessly cool. And the piano, I again, it's so deep how far you can go with that. So awesome. The next step for us will be the house and maybe the fishing rod if we can get those two built before the next episode. But so cool. Labo is fantastic. So anyways, that's what I've been playing. Do you think it's going to
have staying power? Do you think it'll have longevity with your kids?
I think so. It's especially with the creations we're seeing people make. I don't think it's going to have mass appeal staying power, but I think it's going to be enough that I wouldn't be surprised to see like, hey, this Christmas, like there's this holiday season, you can get, we're releasing 2 new Toy-Cons that you can purchase the cardboard for, and it's, $10 or something. Anyways, so yeah, it's great. So that's what I've been playing. How about you, Brad?
Awesome. So I had a blast just kind of on a whim the other day. I saw that the WarioWare Gold demo had released on the eShop for 3DS, and so I downloaded that, and that is a riot. I am a big fan of WarioWare. I have been since the original GBA game, and it's basically this game is sort of a compilation, not really, because there's basically new games, but a compilation of styles, I guess. So basically, there's 3 different categories. The demo takes you through a little bit of each category. So there's the mashing section, where you basically just have the D-pad and the A button, and all the games. If you're not familiar with WarioWare, basically it's they call them micro games, and they throw them at you one after another, and they get faster and faster and harder until you die, until you run out. You have till you I think you have four lives. And so the charm of this game is that the games themselves are ridiculously eccentric, quirky, weird, but also instantly understandable. So like, it may pull up a set of, you'll see a mouth with a set of teeth, and it'll be a one-word instruction: brush, and there'll be a toothbrush right there, and you push the D-pad one way, and it'll swish the toothbrush across the teeth one way, and then back, and then back, and then back, and then then you're done, and you're on to the next thing, and Wario's wah, and you move on, and then there it is. And so it's this frenetic pace and just constant, like, what the heck is coming next? And even in this demo, they let you try each category. Like I said, there's the mash, there's the touch, which is like with the DS version, WarioWare touched, as the use your stylus a lot, and then there's the twist, or which mimics the WarioWare twisted from the GBA. And so there's the different categories, and then they let you kind of combine them all together in the last category. So it's basically throwing everything together, but the games are all new. And even in each category for the demo, they only showed you 5 for each category. So you're really only seeing 15 games out of I think it's like 300 or something crazy like that, that are supposed to be in the final release. But man, they're even in just those 15 games that I saw, there's some really unique, fun stuff. So, like, for instance, there was it was the twisted section. There was one about a violin player, and it just all it said was play. And as you twisted the GBA, it moved, like, basically there's a person on the screen holding a violin, and as you twisted it, it moved the person's hand up or down the strings of the violin, and then it showed on screen, and each on the strings they were divided into red, blue, and green sections. And so then there was a list of notes on the top of the screen that you had to play: blue, red, or blue, yellow, red, yellow, blue. And then you had to keep twisting and tapping the A button to play. Just really clever stuff like that. There were also a couple that were like, there's kind of some absurd, weird humor in here too. So, like, there's one that simply gave the instruction stall. And what that meant was it showed you a bathroom, and you had to and there was a person, like, running back and forth across these 5 different bathroom stalls, and after a second or so, somebody would run out of one of the stalls, and you had to move your guy in front of that stall, push the A button, and run it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And then there was another one that was even worse. It was called Digest, and it gave you a piece of food into this human body, and you could see, like, it was like from the esophagus all the way down through their body, and it kind of twisted and turned all the way out. And
wow, that's
great.
You
had to get that piece of food all the way out. Let's just say that. And so you had to twist it and turn it to get it to go down the tube, basically.
That's great.
And so yeah, the game is just completely absurd and hilarious and awesome. And so I'm definitely interested in maybe getting that at some point. So that's what I've been playing. That I've been also playing. I was able to pick up or at least borrow a copy of Mario Tennis Aces, and so I've been able to put a little time into that, and it's good. I really just wish there were more options for playing normal tennis, because I'm really not on board with the super shots that they do, and the zone shots and the trick shots and all that. I just feel like so many of those are way overpowered. The zone shot in particular, which allows you, you jump up and then you can literally aim exactly on the court where you want to go.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't seem fair, especially when you're playing the computer. Or I don't know, it's almost impossible to guard against those things.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I don't love that, but I did experiment and went online. You can play online with quote simple rules where there's none of that fancy business, which is kind of cool. Got murdered in my game there, but yeah, in the adventure mode, I haven't really dove into that a whole lot. But as far as I understand, that the adventure or the single player mode will require you to do all the fancy stuff. So
sure,
which is, I guess it makes sense because that's their big push for the new game. These new rules and new types of shots. So they want you to master those in the single player mode, but not really for me. But I've been playing through a couple of cups anyway, and just it's good tennis. It's good tennis when you can do that. So, and finally, I played a couple other games that aren't Nintendo games. Don't take my Nintendo card away. I really love Nintendo, but I've been playing my PS4 a lot. I was able to borrow a copy of Shadow of the Colossus for PS4. That game is a masterpiece, and it's only better now that the graphics are kind of up to snuff with other.
It's not
that,
just
by the
dust.
way. Correct. Yes, and the fur is just unbelievable. The environments, everything, and yeah, that is a fantastic game. Actually, I'm working on just finishing up actually for our next episode a soundtrack review for that game. Because that has a phenomenal soundtrack. And then finally, I also played through Detroit Become Human, also for PS4. That's sort of it's in the lineage of games like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. If you are familiar with those, basically it's kind of like a Telltale game, except a lot more in depth in terms of the choices you can get, and longer. And this particular one is about the mark of androids in our society and how they should be considered real people or free or all that. And it's a little bit ham-fisted at some points, but it's also really engaging. There's some great characters that they've built there.
Cool.
So,
nice.
That's what I've been playing.
Awesome. All right. Well, next up is our review for Octopath Traveler. For every person who grew up with video games, there is that one game, that gold standard to which all other games fall just short. For me, that game has always been Final Fantasy VI, or 3 as it was called on the Super Nintendo, which for me was only just equaled this last year with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Final Fantasy VI had it all. A huge cast of playable characters, a world that felt alive, great tight gameplay, an unmatched soundtrack, and I could go on and on and on about that game. In fact, I already did, along with Brad, on an episode of the Nintendo Dads podcast, which you can find with a quick internet search. But enough about Final Fantasy VI. This review is for a new game, a fantasy setting JRPG, exclusive to a Nintendo home console, made by Square Enix, no less. Octopath Traveler. What a name. Now, Square Enix hasn't entirely ignored Nintendo through the years, but most of their home console releases since Final Fantasy VI for Nintendo systems haven't reached the lofty heights of that masterpiece. So with Octopath Traveler, do Nintendo home console owners finally get that fantasy of a Square Enix JRPG masterpiece? Let's find out. Upon starting the game up, you're hit with a title sequence that does not disappoint. The music, all recorded with live musicians, wonderfully sets the mood for what this game is all about. A sense of freedom and optimism. Once the music starts, you get your first glimpses of the game's look, and man, does that look scratch all the right itches. This is nostalgia repainted in splendor with lighting and depth that draws the viewer in. In fact, I rarely start the game up without sitting through the entire title sequence. It's that good. After you come to your senses and remember that you're actually playing a game and not sitting there watching a Twitch stream, you're given the freedom to choose the character and location of the world in which to start your travels. For my game, I started with the hunter Hannet, as the idea of starting the game with an awesome-looking pet snow leopard seemed like the right place to embark. Her story begins in a stunning-looking village set in the woods. The way the light filters through the trees is truly enchanting as you work your way through her intro story, referred to in-game as her first chapter. You learn most of what you need to know for the rest of the game. You discover a problem for each character, work to resolve their issue, learn the ins and outs of their abilities, and move on. Unique path actions for each character give them each their own flavor, allowing you interesting ways of interacting with the NPCs you encounter. Many of these interactions will open up new side quests and areas to explore. It's a very nice feature. Yes, in many respects, it plays like the tried and true random battle JRPGs of old, but there's more than enough refinements to make it feel fresh and new. The mechanics of battle include a new boost mode that favors the patient, and the puzzle of discovering an enemy's weak points and eventually breaking their defenses, leaving them stunned for a turn, makes for some incredibly satisfying moments. Some of these boss battles have taken upwards of 20 minutes, so be sure to come stocked with plenty of replenishing items. One thing missing from the game that one would expect in a retro-style JRPG is perhaps an airship. This is a non-issue, however, as you are able to fast travel between towns. Simply clicking on the town in the map takes you straight there, which takes much of the legwork out of the travel should you want to avoid the grind of walking in a random battle area. One of my favorite aspects of the game is the look. It's an absolutely gorgeous blend of old sprite-based character look with modern lighting and depth, and that depth leads you like a carrot before the horse as you see a treasure in a place that seems to have no access point until you explore around just the right corner and stumble into a hidden path that leads to the treasure. This sense of depth drives much of where you want to explore, and explore you will. This is not a game to be played quickly. It demands that you poke around each locale, speak to as many people as possible, and try out your path actions on as many NPCs as you can. When it comes to the sound department of the game, I am absolutely in love with it. Let's start with the music. This is music of the highest quality, and I believe the composer, Yasunori Nishiki, I believe I'm pronouncing that correct, is a name that you should become familiar with, as I can't imagine you won't be seeing his name pop up again and again. He achieved something truly special with this work. It follows many staples of the Final Fantasy series with extensive use of leitmotif, and there are even a few musical quotes that I caught from Final Fantasy games of old, as well as a quote from the original Legend of Zelda's final dungeon. It's in there, trust me. Aside from the excellent soundtrack, the rest of the sound in the game is dripping with quality. The sounds of the weapons hitting, spells being unleashed, the clopping of footsteps on cobblestone pathways, there was a definite adherence to detail. There are even times when you can notice a slight echo when a character is talking in a more cavernous chamber. With all that said, there are a few minor quibbles. I just mentioned the characters talking, and I failed to mention that this game features full voice acting. It's almost always well done, and in the times where it feels more ham-fisted and cheesy, it still works. However, every now and then I find myself wishing I could direct the voice actors to deliver a line differently, or wishing for greater variance in what is said by random characters upon entering battle. Another gripe of mine is that there seems to be too many empty set pieces. If you've played JRPGs, you learn very quickly to leave no stone unturned. You need to check every bookcase for items, peek in every house, talk to every villager. In Octopath Traveler, too often, though not the norm to be sure, you come across an empty house that is simply that, an empty house. No items, no secret passages, just empty set. Or you stumble upon a group of NPCs that are essentially cardboard cutouts. You can't interact with them, nor perform any of your character's unique path actions on them. Now, these occurrences can be slightly off-putting when you expect something to be gleaned from talking to everyone or from exploring every place that you think you can explore. But once you realize this is just how the game is, you can move past it and just allow it to be another part of the setting, allowing for deeper immersion. My final complaint is the lack of character interactions. There is no story-related benefit to getting characters in any particular order. The stories all tend to play out largely as solo affairs, and the characters in your party at the time you start any new character's Chapter 1 don't offer any ways of altering the story of the game. Granted, I understand that with 8 playable characters and the ability to obtain each character in whichever order you desire would make for a greatly increased development time for the game had they made for these types of variations. In fact, the possibilities for ways to change the story of the game had they gone that route gets into a number that is beyond my mathematical capabilities of knowing. Suffice it to say, I get why they did it this way. But man, would it be cool to be able to play this game over and over, knowing that you may never experience the same game twice. Full disclosure, I've only now just acquired all 8 characters, so I have no way of knowing if this changes once you embark on the second chapters for each character. In the end, I have to say that these issues with the game in no large way detract from the overall experience. There is so much done so right with Octopath Traveler that a few small blemishes are hardly noticeable when taking in the grandeur that is the whole experience. This is easily a Game of the Year candidate for me. My main hope from this is that the game performs so well from a sales standpoint that Square Enix can't help but make a sequel, perhaps even ironing out those small bumps in the road that I encountered. I just hope they give it a better title. Octopath Traveler gets a 9.5 out of 10. All right, so that's our first legitimate score in a review. I felt so strongly about this game that I was like, I just need to give it an actual score. So 9.5 out of 10, almost perfect. A few things, but I do want to point out I learned this after I recorded the review, and it still doesn't really make me change my name about the title, but the title Octopath is if you take the first letter of all the characters in the game, it spells out Octopath. I learned that after, which is okay. It's learning about each of those characters' travels. It's their travel. Okay, fine. Still
dumb.
Yeah, it could be better. But I also want to say, because I've been talking about this multiple times in our recordings, is how much I love Final Fantasy VI, and I mentioned that in the review, but wouldn't it be amazing if they did an HD remake using the quote-unquote 2D HD look of Octopath Traveler? That's all you'd have to do, and that game would sell like bananas. If you made Final Fantasy VI 2D HD remake, that would be fantastic. That'd be so good. But anyway, so I'm in love with Octopath Traveler. I hope to finish it before school starts. We'll see. I know there's a lot left to do in that game, so... anyways, so that's our first episode of season 2.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's fun. Season 2.
So basically, as always, we want to we want to thank you very much for listening to the show, and if you know someone who might be interested in the show, especially now with some of these changes and the lists and whatnot, pass it on, tell a friend. You could also help more people experience the show by going to iTunes and finding our page there, and just search for Nintendo Directors and give us a review, preferably a 5-star review, maybe 7, 12,
yes,
19,
as many stars as you can give.
And that'll help people find us there. You can find us on Twitter at @N_directors. You can write into the show and be part of it. Send us mails. Mailings, sorry. Don't send us mails. We don't need that. But Nintendo
Here's
Directors
our home
Podcast,
address. You can send us snail mail.
Yes, Nintendo Directors Podcast @gmail.com. I am Brad Beyer, and Mark Lego is here. That's the show.
That's the show. All right. Well, we will see you guys again in 2 weeks. Have a good one.
Later.